So as I said in my story, I'm just going to read a little bit of a songbook because I always like to listen to people reading with like a quieter voice, or just speaking more softly if I'm like struggling to sleep. And obviously these are really strange, scary times. So one way to kind of combat any of the anxiety and stress and confusion and loneliness if you're self-isolating and everything like that, but still relevant to what I do and what quite a lot of the people that follow me do. I've already read most of this book, but I'm just going to take it from chapter 1 because the foreword and stuff, I just don't feel like it's super relevant. Also, it's really late, so I probably won't get through that much. Okay, so the first chapter is just called Natural Layout. Did I say what the title was? I think I did. Mastering Layout by Mike Stevens. It's a classic. And I would just make it kind of sound only, but there's quite a lot of use of like showing figures. Obviously, because it's a visual focused book. So there's a quote: "What we see, imagine and conceptualize as artists is controlled to a great extent by our vocabulary." I'm going to try not to read through the through my phone, which is what I'm doing now. Maybe I'll just commit to that. Okay, natural layout. In this book, you'll be asked to harness your creative impulses and concentrate on the basic ingredients of good layout. You will learn to identify and define design components in a fresh, clear, and concise manner. In this first chapter, we will discuss the theories behind sign design in general and the idea of natural layout in particular. The key to success in design is understanding the theoretical terms of layout. It is interesting to note that what we see, imagine, and conceptualize as artists is controlled to a great extent by our vocabulary. If we don't have a name for a particular thing, chances are we'll never see it. You may want to skip to the back of the book and study the glossary of terms. Understanding these words and phrases is essential in learning to see and understand cause and the pages are stuck together effect in all graphic imagery. At first they may seem esoteric, but within a very short period of time they'll open up a whole new world of perception for you. Designing is the process of conceptualizing, of imagining what could be. We'll discuss it only in terms of image appropriateness. Design is the function of your imagination. The possibilities are limitless. What this book will provide you with are guideposts, principles of good design that will ensure the filtering out of inappropriate or weak ideas, and the layout capability to express your ideas in a professional and marketable way. Layout is the organization and arrangement of copy, the stage when proportional relationships of positive and negative spaces are fine-tuned and adapted to a particular format. Design is the result of layout, the end effect. It is the combination and sum of all applied graphics and the relationship to the format. Think of layout as cause and design as effect. The solution to each layout lies in the specifications of the job, a clear understanding of design function, and a sensitivity to individual design elements and their relationship to the whole. The basic design elements are format, positive space, negative space, line value, and colour, hues, tints, and tones. The function of design is to capture the viewer's attention, inform, create a desired image, and make efficient use of materials. From the definition of the function of design, it is possible to define good design, the unification and integration of individual dominant and subordinate design elements in such a way as to maximize function. Translated, that means the fulfillment of function in a tasteful and visually pleasing way. One of the first realizations an artist must come to is that what we think or intend often controls what we consciously see. It can totally compromise our ability to perceive what actually is. We must have enough will, ego, and assertiveness to create, and yet at the same time be intellectually honest and humble enough to correct ourselves. It serves as well never to lose sight of this basic truth. Successful layout requires a familiarity with enough alphabets and their variations to choose not only image-appropriate letter styles, but also letter forms that fit into a given format in a pleasing manner. Familiarize yourself with both upper and lowercase versions, and learn to execute them in light, medium, and bold line values. To become top-flight layout artists, we need to develop not only the skills of a commercial artist, but also those of a copywriter and a merchandising manager. You must be able to discuss the copy with your client and edit out all unnecessary words. The goal is to simplify the copy and gain as much freedom as possible to organize and arrange it effectively. We'll discuss the interpretation, arrangement, and editing of copy in Chapter 3. You must assign an order of importance to the copy. Decide what the most important thought is and give that thought absolute prominence. Then decide what is second most important, and so on. In no instance should one idea or message graphically compete with another. There must be a clear focal point. Organize your copy into thought groups according to subject matter and the amount of copy. When possible, form varying sizes of copy blocks. Contrasting proportions are essential to eye appeal. Good layout leads the eye through the composition quickly by highlighting or putting emphasis on the most important information. This is achieved by varying the size and style of the letters. Establish the habit of using one dominant alphabet in conjunction with a secondary alphabet that is simple and clean. Occasionally, a third alphabet may be used, but it is preferable to save this for your client's logo. To make a composition more interesting to the eye without needlessly changing alphabets, vary the line value of the letters. Think in terms of 3 distinct line values: light, medium, and bold. Natural layout. In general, you have a choice of 2 fundamental approaches to layout. The first is natural layout, which is to lay out and letter something that is visually pleasing within a given format, leaving adequate margins so that it doesn't look forced. The second approach is to do something so visually strong that it totally overpowers the format and causes it to recede as a design element. This is often referred to as a super graphic. Anything between these two choices creates visual conflict with the format. Form the habit of asking yourself at the beginning of each job which type of composition you're going to use. Lay out your sign completely before beginning to letter or paste up your type. This will enable you to make last-minute corrections of your design. You can be sure that you'll almost always see something to change or rearrange. A simple, harmonious, and natural-looking layout can be one of the toughest things to create. It requires a great deal of awareness and self-restraint. To many, natural layout would seem to be more of a case of not doing than of doing. The artist must subordinate his imagination and creative urges to mental discipline and assign function and form. The natural layout formula. In order to help you begin to see new subtleties of design and harness your creative potential, I've developed a procedural formula that forces your I cannot read, it's so dark. Your imagination to respect the format and discipline your skills. See Figure 1. This formula defines the layout area and ensures adequate margins. It protects the integrity of the format and directs you towards a natural, clean composition. This formula will work within the proportions of most formats. Obviously, to utilize the defined areas, a minimum amount of copy is required. The idea is to compose your layout within the major silhouetted areas. The edge of the silhouette suggests the outside point of a particular line of copy. It may be necessary to exceed this point occasionally. Do not have every line of copy meet this edge. Try to develop an overall free-form type of silhouette that doesn't look too regimented or corny. It's important to note that A and B are constants in the formula. That is to say, A is always equal to 15% of the shortest axis, and B is always equal to 17% of the horizontal axis. The axes extend from edge of format to edge of format. To take advantage of this formula, it is sometimes necessary to rearrange the copy, add a word or two, or even to delete some of the copy. In the natural layout formula diagram, there are three major areas. The large central area is reserved for the most important copy. This is the optical center of the format, established at the intersection of the vertical and horizontal axes. The two remaining areas are flexible and can be utilized as the copy and other priorities dictate. Notice the shapes of the silhouettes created in Figure 2. They are rhythmically consistent with their formats. Get a feel for this, as this rhythm or thrust of shape will direct you towards the most appropriate letter styles. Natural layout is dependent upon the harmonious relationship between a format and its copy blocks. The design integrity, Bristol. The design integrity of a block of copy is maintained by correct letter and word spacing, and by the use of an alphabet that doesn't rhythmically conflict with the silhouette of the block of copy. There are exceptions that will be discussed in later chapters. Study Figure 2 and notice how the shape and boundary of the silhouette change within the different format proportions. That sentence didn't make sense. Use natural layout as often as possible. The disciplined and simple approach will rapidly educate your eye. There is no place to hide design deficiencies. Natural layout requires that you learn to see and understand quantitative but positive and negative spatial relationships. It forces you to seek theoretical layout solutions rather than extemporaneously fill the space with something you've seen or done before. Layout has been the most elusive skill for lettering artists. It is interesting to note that the difference between outstanding and average lettering artists is not nearly as great as the difference between outstanding and average layout artists. The difference is that lettering has always had specific guidelines, rules of proportion, spacing and technique, clear, communicable, objective standards, and the advantage of a mental image of what the basic letter forms should look like. Whereas the art of layout has unfortunately been treated as a mystery or a gift from birth, it isn't either one. It can be mastered by most people once they understand the parts and the relationship to the whole. We are all trained from a very early age to see and recognise the same basic alphabet, but that's all we've been taught to see. Our intuitive, natural ability to see more has been almost completely suppressed, and so we see only one element of a multifaceted phenomenon, the positive space or the letter. Focusing almost exclusively on the positive space is where we all begin as artists. Relatively few of us go on to retrieve and further develop our natural sensitivity to the other integral elements of design. One of your first objectives as an artist should be to study and gain a working knowledge of negative space, whose value as a design element is equal to that of positive space. Okay, so that's like 16 minutes. Hopefully I bored a lot of you to sleep, or just made you take your mind off this strange world for some time. Maybe I'll read some more at some point. Take care.